Cole, do you need one? Okay, good. Just want to make sure. For those online, we will start in 1 minute. City of Rocky Mount as Assistant to the City Manager for Budget and Evaluation. And among my several duties on behalf of the city, I do oversee special federal appropriations that the city receives from time to time. Primarily, this is in the form of public assistance we receive for reimbursements of expenses due to disasters through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It also includes special appropriations such as those that we received after the Recovery Act in 2009, and now under the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed by Congress and signed into law by the President in 2021. And we thank you all for being here this evening for this discussion and opportunity for you as the citizens of Rocky Mount to provide public input on the utilization of some of the dollars that has been made available to the city as a result of the American Rescue Plan Act. So first, I will start with an overview of what we will cover tonight. First, I will provide an update on the allocations that have been made so far with respect to the funding, as well as the funding that is available to the city through this legislation. Talk a little bit about the allowable categories that we have in terms of the utilization of these funds, and then provide a review of the city's public engagement process for the utilization of these funds. And then certainly last but not least, provide you, the citizens of Rocky Mount, both here in person and online, the opportunity to offer comment in terms of how these funds should be used. So in spring of 2021, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act, and amongst its many provisions was the allocation of federal funds to all local governments in the United States, both counties and municipalities, that could be used for a certain variety of purposes tied to the response to the aftermath of the COVID pandemic. The city of Rocky Mount received from the federal government $11,521,380. These funds were delivered to the city in two payments. The first payment was received in June of 2020, and June of 2021, and the second payment was received in June of 2022. And the city as an entity has until the end of calendar year 2026 to disperse these funds. The city council went ahead and took certain actions in terms of its allocation of a portion of these funds. A little under 50% of these funds have already been allocated. The first allocation they made, the first direct allocation they made that's been paid for, was in the fall of 2021. and that was under the category that was allowed under the American Rescue Plan Act, and that was premium pay to city employees. Several hundred of our over 900 full-time city employees were actively working and providing essential services to the residents of the city of Rocky Mount during the formal lockdown period of the COVID pandemic, which, according to the executive order of Governor Cooper, lasted from late March of 2020 until early June of 2020. During that time, City Hall was closed, many businesses and other institutions here in the city were closed, and city employees in many areas continued to provide the daily services that were required of our residents, and everything from, of course, public safety, public utilities, infrastructure maintenance, and other essential services that were provided to our residents. City Council in the fall of 2021 approved a plan to provide those employees who actively served during this period, this 2-month, 10-week period, a stipend or bonus associated to their pay, which they received in November of 2021. The total cost of that program was $1,267,958. In addition, in the summer of 2021, as part of budget discussions, the City Council approved 2 general allocations of funds to be used for city programs tied to 2 areas that are coordinated with the category of service to disproportionately impacted communities. Again, another allowable expense of COVID funds. $3 million was focused on funding for programs that the city would administer to expand or maintain the supply of affordable housing, and $2 million was tied to continuing downtown development. As such, this is over $6.2 million that's already been spent or allocated by the city, which means that as of today, the city continues to have available unallocated $5,253,222 of funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. And those are the funds that we are seeking public comment from during the purpose of this engagement process that we are undertaking. The American Rescue Plan Act established several categories for the allocation of these funds. One overarching goal with respect to all of these categories and the utilization of these funds is an emphasis on equity in our communities, including here in the city of Rocky Mount. These funds, one category is the support of public health expenditures. I would simply preface that in North Carolina, public health is a primary responsibility of county governments and is not technically a normal responsibility of municipal governments like the city of Rocky Mount. In North Carolina, public health services are primarily provided by our county governments, such as the health departments that are run by Nash and Edgecombe County. Another allowable category is to address negative economic impacts that have been caused by COVID-19, of which there are many and they are significantly noticeable. This includes a specific emphasis on economic impacts dealing with the exacerbation of pre-existing disparities. We recognize that throughout the country, and including here in Rocky Mount, there are many communities and many neighborhoods and portions of the community that were already dealing with economic challenges prior to the COVID-19 pandemic in early 2020. And what the pandemic has done is to exacerbate or increase the intensity of the challenges that they face economically. From a technical standpoint, the city of Rocky Mount, in the disbursement and utilization of these funds, has expanded latitude for projects that take place in what are known as qualified census tracts. These are areas of the community as identified geographically by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD, and they meet certain demographic qualifications. And the city has the ability to use these funds in a more expanded way with respect to addressing economic issues in these specific areas. There are several of these qualified census tracts are located in Edgecombe County, and there's one qualified census tract in the Nash County side of Rocky Mount that primarily focuses on the southwest portion of the city. The city also has the opportunity to allow for the expense of these funds to replace lost public sector revenue. Initially, there was a rather complex calculation formula that the U.S. Department of Treasury, which is administering these funds, that they wanted us to use. later, in fact, in early of this year, 2022, they changed their requirements to say that all communities could take up to $10 million of these funds and apply it as a standard allowance, which provides for greater flexibility in the use of these funds. They also, of course, provided for premium pay for essential workers, which the city has already done. And they also provided for that the city could and other local governments could use these funds for investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. And these are federal allowances that are provided under federal law. The federal government expanded this to include allowances for the use in stormwater or storm drainage activities. However, it's important to also understand that when these funds are used, that the city of Rocky Mount is still under the guidance of state law, that state law and federal law have to match up in the allocation of these funds. And since 2011, the state of North Carolina has prevented the ability for municipal governments to expend various funds, both its own funds and grant funds from a variety of sources, including the federal government, on broadband infrastructure in the traditional sense of providing retail services to our customers. And so that is a limitation that we have on the use of these funds. Now that I've had an opportunity to go over the categories, I would like to discuss the public engagement process. We recognize that as in accordance with the spirit of the American Rescue Plan Act, that it is important for us to incorporate feedback from the public in determining how the remaining balance of these funds should be used, which, as I said before, is $5,253,222. And that is the purpose of this engagement process that we have undertaken since early September. One element of this is a public survey. We have three elements of it. The first is a public survey. We have paper copies available for you to fill out here. You can obtain them at City Hall if you would like. We also have them available online at the website that's provided on the screen, rockymount.nc.gov/american.rescue-plan-public-engagement. There are links to that survey both in English and in Spanish. And we appreciate everybody who has participated in the survey so far. We also offer the opportunity for people to deliver long-form public comment. This can be memos, letters, proposals, what have you, and that can be either dropped off in hard copy format here at City Hall at the front desk in the atrium of City Hall, or can be emailed to arpengagement@rockymountnc.gov. And we appreciate those that have taken advantage of that opportunity. And last but not least, we are also holding town hall meetings to offer the opportunity for people to come, learn more about the American Rescue Plan, and also provide their comments on how the money should be used. We decided to hold a total of 10 of those meetings. 3 of those meetings were organized in a city-wide fashion that was designed to be available and intended for participation by all city residents as a whole. Each of those meetings, of course, is being held in person and also being simulcast through Zoom and YouTube. And we appreciate all of those who are participating online this evening because this is a citywide meeting. We have also scheduled one additional session for each of the seven city wards. And we've been going through those meetings throughout the course of late September through most of this month. And this is the next to last meeting of that series, the final meeting of which is tomorrow night. And this is a schedule of the meetings that we've had. Again, we've had 3 citywide meetings. We've had meetings in each of the 7 wards except for Ward 5. Their meeting will be tomorrow night. All these meetings start at 7 p.m., so tomorrow night's meeting will start at 7 p.m. and will take place at the Hampton Inn, which is directly off of Winstead Avenue. So now we come to the opportunity for everyone here, as well as those online, to offer their public comment with respect to the utilization of remaining American Rescue Plan Act funds. There is no time limit with respect to the comments that you can provide in person. All we ask are the following 2 things. 1, that you state your name and address, And two, that whatever comments you make, that you please direct those comments to the use of unallocated ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. For those of you who are participating on Zoom, you are welcome to share your comments in the chat section, and we will note those and collect those as well. We also don't forget to encourage you to fill out our survey or learn more about our utilization of American Rescue Plan Act funds at our website at rockymount-nc.gov/American-Rescue-Plan-Public-Engagement. At this time, I will be happy to turn it over to those of you here in the audience who would like to make comments and recommendations with respect of the utilization of American Rescue Plan Act funds.
My name is Minister Lydia Davis Merritt. I don't want to sound like a broken record that's playing over and over again, but I'm here to represent the main vessel, which is Sunset Avenue. That's the main vessel downtown, and we should be paying more attention to this streak. It's a very dangerous curve. 2 persons have gotten killed in that curve. One ended up in my yard. I put a brick front there. However, the traffic, we can't do anything about the traffic. We are all seniors, and we are begging for help. A portion of this fund could help us out. If the police can't stop this traffic, this racetrack, then maybe we could put cameras every other street. I think you really should be concerned. You're going to rehab downtown, but the vessel going downtown should mean a lot. Picking the garbage up, it means a lot. It tells you what your city's all about, the main vessel. We have a lot of seniors that could not be here today to express their viewpoint. The big trucks, their china is rattling in their cabinets. They can't move. They don't have the money to move. They've been there. It's a lifetime thing when you buy a home. So we are begging that a portion of this money would go to fix the street. There are big dump sections. And when the truck hits these streets, their china is rattling in their houses. These are brick houses. I live in a brick house, but you can feel the vibration from these big trucks. I think the city should be on top of this. I've spoken to the engineers, and they really should pay more attention to this. We should have everybody from Sunset Avenue out here tonight, but I'm sorry. We have a lot of people that had the COVID. These are seniors, and if their immune system is low, what else happens? They go into cancer. So let's make these people comfortable before their last breath is taken. Do something for the seniors that purchase homes on Sunset Avenue, starting with the curve all the way down to the main business area. We need that help. And I'm asking someone to just, it's not going to take that much to restructure the entire area and have someone to change the markings. You would have to see the markings the way they changed it over to 3 lanes. And it's so dangerous. I can hardly get out of my driveway without thinking that I'm going to get hit. They have markings all over this place. I'm not an engineer, but somebody should pay attention, and I'm asking you and begging you to please put a portion of this money toward making your main vessel look better, satisfy the seniors because they are sick and they cannot move. This is their home place. And so let's give them a little more serenity before their deaths. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, rather. My name is Philip Jones. I am the Executive Director of Tar River Community Development Corporation. We are a local nonprofit in the community. I'm currently building a house over on 121 Leonard Street. That's off of South Church Street. Basically, I'm here to say that the city needs to use the funds for a few things. One, we're requesting $350,000 for our nonprofit. What our nonprofit does is we provide educational resources to the community in form of, we have a book club, we have a chess club, and we also have various workshops that we are able to provide educational resources to the community covering topics from credit, stock investing, to healthy eating, to real estate investing. There's a variety of things we're trying to provide to the community. Currently, we're requesting that money for a community center so that we can either develop a brand new one or that we can purchase and rehab a building to convert it into a community center so that we can have a central location for the city of Rocky Mount to come and be in a safe environment to learn all of these things that we can host all of our programs. I see the city already has $2 million allocated for affordable housing, and whether that's rental properties or new construction properties for residents to purchase, without having the education or a place for the people to come to learn all these things, it just will be the same cycle over and over again of people just not even having the education to get out of the situations that they are still in. So we're requesting that funds for our nonprofit so that we can be of more impact to the community. Secondly, I think some of the money should go towards incentivizing new business owners or current business owners to starting businesses or furthering their business operations. Maybe the city can open up a loan or a micro loan program or a rebate program so that businesses, if they put money towards their funds and they show that they have been serving the community in various ways, the city might can match that and can give them some extra help so that they can further their business mission. Secondly, I think the same thing should be implemented, but specifically for real estate investors. We should have areas of the city that they want to, or that we want to rather, build to certain standards or rehab to certain standards. And if there are real estate investors who are willing to put their own money up towards to help make this a reality, I think the city should match those funds so that there can be more opportunities for more real estate investors and more people to just get involved in the real estate rehabilitation of the city. Another thing is we have a lot of properties that have outstanding weed assessment fees and outstanding taxes. I think the city should use some of those funds to just eat the cost because they're not going to get paid regardless. They've been sitting vacant, boarded up. Some of these homes are used to house drug operations. There are a lot of different things going on at vacant properties that could be rehabbed into facilities that people can live in, and it'll just create more opportunities. I think the city should just eat those costs, and then they should also either do it themselves or choose a fiduciary to manage the process of selling those vacant lots, properties, and boarded up homes so there can be more opportunities for home ownership and also affordable renting. And then lastly, I feel like some of this money should go towards more health and recreational facilities in the area. We have a few community centers, but we don't have the people or the resources to, like, for example, if somebody wanted to go to physical therapy in a or impoverished neighborhood, where are they going to go to get some resource, like, or even occupational I think that's the word, therapy, things like that. We need more recreational and just to learn about healthy eating and exercise and all of that stuff. So those are the ways that I feel like the city could use the funds. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment at this time?
Good evening. My name is Susan Perry Cole. I live at 251 Rose Street here in the city. I've lived in that neighborhood for over 35 years. I'm like this young lady said, I'm a longtime resident and I can't afford to move anywhere. You know, on the way over here tonight, I was listening to public radio, and among the things they were talking about is looking at the stock market and trying to decide the direction that the stock market is taking as whether or not that would be a predictor of a downturn or a recession. And in that context, how we use this American Rescue Plan funds takes on added significance because we're entering a very volatile economic period, and we need to be quite intentional in the investment of these funds. So I wanted to make a few suggestions tonight, and I wanted to say that I respect the recommendations of the people that have spoken before me, and I just want to add to that. One of the things that I want to do is echo what Mr. Hunter said, which has to do with the overarching goal of achieving equity or closing disparate gaps in conditions with these funds. And with that in mind, I think it's very well known that there is a range of conditions in neighborhoods in our city. Some neighborhoods in the city have flourished while others have declined. And the neighborhood that I live in has a heavy concentration of vacancy, deferred maintenance, and population loss. And one of the things I wanted to recommend as an overarching theme for whatever expenditure the City Council sees fit for these funds is that we have an overarching goal of measuring to what extent equity or gaps in disparities have been closed with the use of these funds. I think it's very important to prioritize racial equity as a goal in this plan. And once we can do that, that equity then becomes the center of the focus of however the funds are used. I wanted to also comment on the $2 million investment in downtown development. I think that that is appropriate under the circumstances, since our revitalization strategies for the city focus a lot on the revitalization of downtown. And we know that small businesses have proven to be key determinants of successful downtowns. Small businesses bring jobs and diversify local employment opportunities. So building upon the $2 million that the City Council has already earmarked for small business or downtown development, I wanted to suggest that we leverage that investment with an additional investment to increase access to capital. It's well known that not everybody has access to the traditional financial markets on an equitable basis. And it's also well known that minority businesses did not fare well in the cycle of the PPP loans that were let to help with economic recovery. So I think that we could set up a revolving loan fund and perhaps work with a non-traditional lender such as a community development financial institution that have a track record of working with conditions surrounding minority and women borrowers. I also think that we need to look at frontline COVID-impacted, disinvested communities. Even before the pandemic, hundreds of Marcky Mount households were spending more than they could afford on housing. Also, we recognize that the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates to cool off inflation. As the Fed raises interest rates, that pushes mortgage rates higher on top of already climbing home costs. So as mortgage rates have risen and there's a shortage of affordable housing for sale, that knocks many potential first-time home buyers out of the market for getting into home ownership. And home ownership is one of the most important ways we have in our country of building wealth. So to help make home ownership a reality, we recommend an additional investment somewhere in the range of $600,000 to $1 million in ARPA funding to help finance first-time home buyer down payment assistance. And I think that with the climbing interest rates, we have to think about going higher on how much each applicant household might be able to qualify for. We might have to subsidize as much as $40,000 per household unit. Also, the conditions of houses in certain neighborhoods, as I mentioned earlier, like mine, have deteriorated. And I wanted to recommend another $400,000 be set aside to create a new owner-occupied substantial rehab program. With the cycle of inflation that we've been undergoing, the cost of materials and labor has gone up and up and up. Right now, there is a cap on how much the city can invest in the various repair programs that it has. I'd like to recommend with this new owner-occupied substantial rehab program that we allocate as much as $50,000 in rehab costs per housing unit. And finally, I'd like to recommend to promote the development of low-income rental housing that we recommend an investment of up to $1 million in ARPA funding that the city on a case-by-case basis could offer as gap financing to public and private developers to support the production of new low-income rental housing. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Reynolds. I live at 1000 Sycamore Street here in Rocky Mount. This is my second meeting attendance, and I've heard a lot of people talk about beautifying the city, doing this and doing that with the money. I look at a country like Cuba, a country that have made education a priority. And I've had the privilege of working with some of the engineers from Cuba. I've known doctors from Cuba, excellent people in their craft. I look at a company like Japan, China, who make education their priority. My oldest son, he's 13. In China, you have 13-year-old boys and girls earning serious money through their education. A country like Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Kenya, who have now made education a priority. 2 high school girls created a generator that runs off their urine. 2 high school girls, they took their urine and power a generator. Okay? A young boy, 16 years old, he took a lawnmower engine, aluminum chairs, and built a helicopter. The thing actually lifts off the ground. I look around Rocky Mount. We see parks, recreational parks, lawn tennis, basketball, growing up with weeds and full of garbage. Okay, why do we need to add more to that? I think we're just feeding into our own defeat. My thing is education. I've had the privilege of hiring, firing people who graduate from college. And I've had people from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Nassau. These are high school people, are more qualified to get the job done than somebody coming out of college here with a bachelor's degree. And that's the honest to God truth. The educational system here in America sucks. And it only begins with us to make a difference. My advice to you, that money you have, don't take it and spend it foolishly on no parks. Invest in your people, young people. There is a man I had the privilege of meeting years ago in New Jersey. That man went away to prison, did 3 years, came back out. Whatever he was doing, he quit doing it. But whatever he did with his money, he invested in people. Okay? Today that man don't have to work. He came out of prison to a brand new Cadillac. That man makes more money every week than I make in a month. And all he collects from people is $100. Every week from Connecticut to Philadelphia. He invests in people. And I say, take your money and invest in people. Now you take the time out and you drive around Rocky Mount and you see the basketball courts, lawn tennis courts, this court, that, it's empty, filled with garbage. Another thing that a lot of people seem to ignore, that Rocky Mount is the halfway point for drug dealers and drug runners. Gun runners and drug runners. Rocky Mount is the halfway point. Okay, you're going to take your money and invest into a community that is infested with these kind of activities? No, it don't make no sense to me. Our young people, my 2 sons, I want them to learn to build their own houses. I want them to learn how to repair their own cars. I didn't know what it was like to go to a store to buy a carburetor until I come to America. In school, I learned to take the carburetor off the car, take it apart, clean it, put it back together, fit it on the car, and that car runs. At 17 years old, I know how to draw the plan for a house. Okay? We are fighting against ourselves. We are investing in our own demise. Invest in education. I have visited some of the facilities here for young people after school. And what do? They play. They waste their time and do stupidness. You go to Japan, China, on Sundays, kids go to school even on Sundays. One young man I know very well, at 16 years old, 15, he came to America. He tested out of high school at 16 years old. 19 years old, he had his bachelor's degree. 24, he was teaching at a school, at a college in Orlando, Florida. Why? He was educated in Japan. His mother invested in her son. And much of us here are parents, grandparents. Invest in your children. Stop thinking about beautifying this and beautify your children. Invest in yourself. Invest in your future. Now we take this money and we beautify downtown. You drop dead tomorrow, then what? Then what? If you have a grandson, that boy should be able to come, know how to even grease the hinges on your door. You don't have to look for a contractor to do that. Your lawn needs cutting, the place needs sweeping. Your son or your grandson should be able to do that. You don't have to call a contractor for that. And as far as healthy heating concerned, this is absolutely pathetic because children going to school, and I see some of the food that children are being fed in school. As a boy growing up, my grandfather was a farmer. Pigs ate better than what I see in school. I will not eat it. And that's the honest to God truth. Fruits, fast food, junk, we feed in our children. Then by the time they're 25, 30 years old, they have all kinds of disease in them because they weren't taught to eat healthy from a child. The school system here in America sucks. And some of this money can go very well in educating even the very teachers in school. Thanks for your time.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Seeing that there are no more comments, we will conclude this meeting. I would like to remind everyone that we do have one more town hall meeting that will be hosted tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Hampton Inn. And of course, you can visit our website, rockymountnc.gov, and click on the banner link to access information about our community engagement process for the American Rescue Plan Act. Thank you very much for your comments and suggestions, and have a wonderful evening. Good night.